coughing fit. It's not the Rona. Now my eye makeup's probably running. This podcast is off to a good start. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 56 of the Hilo Stitch podcast. I'm your host Kristen, and I'm here to talk to you about what else? Knitting. I will also be talking about all things knitting and yarn related, and maybe not so knitting and yarn related on occasion. So if you don't know me already, my name is Kristen Janik. I'm a semi-retired knitting pattern designer, a knitting instructor, and an all-around knitting enthusiast. I am podcasting to you from my home in the Maryland suburbs of Washington, D.C., where I live with my husband, 2 little boys, 1 annoying dog, and a grumpy old cat. When I am not knitting, you can find me doing yoga, vegetable gardening, sewing, drinking wine, but it is mostly about the knitting, so let's go ahead and start talking about it. All right, let's jump right into on and off the needles. I don't have anything new off the needles to share, but I have something that I finished months and months and months ago that was a test knit that I can now share because the pattern has been published. So I'm gonna pause and add a few photos in here. This is the Bresson pullover, which is part of Brooklyn Tweed's new homeware collection. So I test knit this for the designer Alma Bali over the summer. I specifically remember because I took it with me on our trip up to Deep Creek Lake in June. And one night it was so chilly up in the mountains that I put the sweater on with one sleeve still on the needles. I knit my test knit with the original yarn, which is Brooklyn Tweed Shelter. The colorway is called Postcard, and it's a very pale gray, purple, pink, kind of depending on the angle that you're looking at it from. And the pattern includes, I believe, 2 different body shapes. So I want to say a straight and an A-line, and then also 2 different necklines. So either a crew neck or, as you can see, that big cowl neck, which I love. So this is a great pattern, very straightforward. It's basically just stockinette and garter stitch. I really think the big cowl gives it a unique look, and it keeps it extra warm. It's like a big cozy sweatshirt. I knit the pattern, of course, as written because I was test knitting. If I were to make any modifications, if I were to maybe work it to knit a new one, I would probably go down a needle size for the big cowl neck, which would just make the fabric a little thicker and a little more structured, so it wasn't quite so floppy. But it is delightful just the way it is. If you have not worked with the Brooklyn Tweed Shelter before, it is a woolen spun yarn, so it's very airy and lofty. So the sweater, despite being, kind of big, it's oversized, it's got that big cowl neck, but it's very light because woolen spun yarn traps a lot of air in it. So it still has a very light feel, but it's also very warm. So I've basically been living in this sweater all winter and have not been able to share it, of course, because it was a test knit, but it is now available from Brooklyn Tweed as part of their new homeware collection. So if you are interested, definitely check that out. Very well written, size inclusive. Like I said, 2 neck options, 2 body options, and I'm sure you could substitute the yarn, but the Brooklyn Tweed Shelter I think is pretty reasonably priced, and it just works. It's a really great combination for what's going on here, which is a relatively simple pattern. Like I said, just stockinette and garter, but the Brooklyn Tweed Shelter gives it some nice texture, and the very kind of lightly heathered colors that they have are just really beautiful. So I will include a link to that in the description box down below in case you want to check it out. And of course, links to everything will be included in the show notes if I remember to do them, which I didn't last time. So we'll see about that. Other than that, I have been working pretty exclusively on 2 projects. The first is my Darren sweater from the Embody collection. I am knitting a sort of cropped t-shirt version, and I am nearly done the body. So I am right now doing short rows for the hem, which dips down in the back a little bit, and then it has a narrow rib hem to finish off. This yarn that I am using is a lace weight alpaca held double with a lace weight silk mohair, and they are both from Knit Picks. It is creating just the lightest, fluffiest, softest fabric. You can see kind of lots of fluff here. Let's see, wrong bag. Anyway. And Dory would like you to hear her opinions. The main lace weight yarn is this in a pinky gray, and then the mohair is this very pale gray. This is Plover, and I believe this colorway is called Charlotte. I will double check and I will put something different if it's different, but I'm pretty sure it's called Charlotte. And this is their lace weight 100% alpaca. You can see that this in itself has some nice fluff to it. So it is just making an extra fluffy, light fabric. This is going to have just sort of a capped sleeve. I did do bust darts. As I think I said previously, I'm kind of right at the border of needing them, but since they were provided in the pattern, I thought I would go ahead with them. And it doesn't really look much different when you're looking at it straight on. And even from the side, it's not a dramatic difference, but it just creates some extra space right about here where my fingers are in the front of your sweater. So it can stretch outward, make more room for the ladies. And when you do that, see, because knit fabric is pretty flexible, so the fabric generally will stretch to cover your bust, but when it does that, it pulls the fabric outward, which tends to make it whatever you're wearing ride up in the front if you are very well endowed. So when you create bust darts, that's giving more space for, why do people do this? Like if you're talking about boobs, you have to point at them because no one knows where they are. I remember it a lot when I had babies and people would talk about breastfeeding and they felt compelled to, like, because in case you don't know where the boobs are, they're here. Anyway, you create some extra space so that the fabric doesn't have to stretch, and then that way you can maintain the length and it's not going to ride up in the front because it's being pulled out this way. And I get into this a little bit in my Sweater Siren e-course, but what you'll see sometimes is people knitting sweaters in sizes much too big for them when what they really need are bust darts in the sweater. So it's a bit of a complicated process, but basically, if everything in a sweater pattern is the right size for your shoulder and your waist and your hips, but it's just the bust measurement that is too small because you are more well endowed, then instead of going up a pattern size, what will usually work better is to add bust darts to accommodate larger boobs. Anyway, so as I said, since they were already written in, I was kind of right on the edge of, do I need them, do I not? I decided to go ahead and put them in. And they're just short rows. And throughout this, I have substituted all of the wrap and turn short rows for German short rows because I just think they look nicer for me personally. Your mileage may vary. So that, again, I'm almost done, just working the hem, and then it's going to be short sleeves. So hopefully by the next episode, this will be done. And the other thing I've mostly been working on is my test knit for Karina Spencer. I'm going to show you this first, but this is actually the back. So I did knit the whole front, and I'll show you in just a second. I just got an email from her this morning extending the deadline for this about a week, which I think I could have pushed it in with the deadline, but I think it'll be nice to have that extra time as well, just because this ribbing and twisted stitches on the front are slow going because it's a twisted rib and the twisted stitches together. So that is the progress I have made on the back. And I'm a little concerned about my yarn. I used I got 2 skeins of this yarn, which is Magpie Fibers Swanky Sock in the Wicked Game colorway. I got 2 skeins. And I used almost 1 whole skein for the front. You can see right here is where that first skein ended. So I got, what is that, maybe a 1/2 inch worth of the back, which in theory wouldn't be bad, except that the back is a little bit longer than the front, and it also has some short row shaping to raise the back neck. So I am going to need to find some more yarn. I could easily go up to the shop in Frederick sometime between now and the due date and get another skein. It's not a cheap yarn, and I don't need that much more. So I'm thinking if I might try maybe crowdsourcing and see if I can find somebody who's got some leftovers. A 1/4 of a skein. We'll see. But let me show you the front. All right, so here is the completed front. Which side are you supposed to be seeing? This one? So here's the completed front. I am doing a cropped version, or actually there's a cropped and a full length in the pattern, and I'm kind of doing right in between the two. I didn't want it super cropped, but I also did not want it the full length. It just seemed a little too long for what I'm hoping to do, which is to pair this with some dresses for the spring. So you can see all of this twisted rib and twisted stitches, and then it transitions into this nice lace, which is a pretty straightforward lace pattern, nothing too fancy, and then some short rows to slope the shoulders. And this is a top that does not have sleeves. It just has kind of nice wide armholes. And I am very happy with it. It has so much structure and texture. The color is just amazing. So I am absolutely thrilled with this. And I cannot wait to have it done with that minor conundrum about the yarn. So if you or anyone you know has about 1/4 or 1/3 of a skein of Swanky Sock and Wicked Game and want to send it to me, I would be thrilled. So we'll see. Again, the deadline for this is April 17th. So you will be definitely seeing the finished sweater. I'm not using sleeves, so it's not really a sweater, in the next episode. And then I'm not sure, I'm assuming she's going to release the pattern shortly after the test knitting deadline. It has already been tech edited. So I think she's just looking for feedback on yarn usage and any, anything that could be clearer, but I don't think it's going to need any major revisions. It has been very straightforward, a lovely pattern, very clear, everything very well explained. So again, that is from Karina Spencer. It is called the Mid-Season Sweater, and you will probably be seeing it later this month. And that is all I have been working on. I did wind up yarn for 2 more projects from my Make 9. So I wound up this yarn for the Layla bralette. This is La Di Da DK from Knot House Yarns, and the colorway is Smoke and Mirrors. The pattern actually says though to use like a cotton yarn because wool is a little too flexible for a bralette. I think there are ways around that, and I do have several wool bralettes that are fine. And again, there's something to be said for a bralette you can actually wear in warm weather, but I don't like knitting with cotton. And it's a DK weight cotton, which is just very, I don't know, I'm kind of torn on that. So I may or may not end up using this. That is why I bought it. I'm still kind of thinking about it. And then I wound this up. This is Magpie Fibers. I want to say it's called, no, it's not Solstice. That was a different base of theirs. I forget what it's called. Anyway, it is a sport weight linen and silk that I'm going to be using for the Gelato tank top, which is a pattern by Gabrielle Knits. It is on my Make 9. It is a sleeveless, strappy camisole kind of deal with some texture detailing around the kind of the V-neck area here. I do have 2 skeins of this. I just wound up the one so I could get started on swatching. I don't remember. I don't know anything about this yarn. Again, I know that it is sport weight. I know that it is linen and silk. I just cannot remember the name of the base, and I can't remember which colorway this is. It is one of the beaver colorways. I want to say it's Bougie Beaver, but I don't 100% remember because I really have quite a lot of these colorways from Magpie. I've got 2 skeins of this silk linen. I've got a skein of her merino singles in one of the beaver colorways, and then I've got a skein of her feather, which is her silk mohair, and then I just recently got those 2 skeins of dream beaver that I showed you in the last episode of the podcast. So this is one of the beaver colorways. I don't know which one. I think it's going to be lovely for that gelato top. I do need to swatch, and I really need to take a look at the pattern. So if you've watched the podcast for a while, you might remember when I did the test knit for Jessie May of her outline, shorts and top. No, I did the outline tank. Is it called the outline top? Whatever it is. I used linen and it biased a lot, which apparently is something that often happens when you are knitting linen in the round. I'm not sure if this pattern is knit in the round, but I think that the yarn used in the pattern is a linen blend. So hopefully that will not be a problem. Anyway, it's wound up. I am ready to swatch, but I want to get one of these whips off the needles first. I think that is all I have to tell you about in on and off the needles. All right, Adelante, talking about upcoming possible pattern designs. The only thing that I have been actually working on is this pullover still that I was originally hoping to publish this in January, February. That didn't happen. What I think I'm going to do now is save it to be published around Maryland Sheep and Wool. And so I put it on the back burner a little bit, also because I am ready to start some neck shaping and I need to do some math, and it just seemed like a lot of work. Which it is. Pattern designing is a lot of work, and it's a lot of math. It's a lot of spreadsheets. And most pattern designers I know don't get into it for a love of math and grading. That's, yeah, maybe, I mean, I'm sure some don't particularly mind that part, but I don't think anybody gets into it for that part. Certainly I don't. So I want to get the body done and a sleeve started. It's going to be a drop shoulder, and just want to be able to, boy, that's really irritating me. I can't believe I didn't notice that. Anyway, to be able to get some people started on some preview knitting. So as I said, my goal now is to kind of save this for Maryland Sheep and Wool. I know that Kim is going to be at Maryland Sheep and Wool. And so maybe we can work something out with that. I can send the sample over to her maybe so people can take a look at it. We will see. But it has just kind of been on the back burner because pattern designing is not my job anymore. And I am using a lot of my brain space for translating and translation work. So when it comes time to do some mathing, my brain is, it's used up. I just don't have as much capacity for that anymore. But this is still underway, and really I'm going to try to get this body done ASAP so that I can start calling for some preview knitters for that. So that's another thing I've really been working on. I just got a call for submissions from Knit Picks. The company's worked so far ahead. This is for their winter 2023 a collection, and I definitely want to submit something for that, but I don't have anything even. I was just like, ooh, I like this mood board. This is right in my wheelhouse. Gonna do something, but that's as far as I got. And then the other thing I've been doing is a couple weeks ago when I was out with my sister doing some shopping, I found this really cute sweater in a boutique that had some elements that I really liked, and I thought I would like to create a design inspired by this. So it was black, which does not interest me. I'm not knitting with black yarn. It was a lightweight, sort of a thin fabric with all over texture and then a big keyhole in the back. And so it's really been on my mind. And so what I have kind of been thinking about for that is the yarn. I'd like to do something like I'm doing with this, which is holding two lace weights together to create this really airy, light fabric. So what I'm wondering is, do I want to, because these kind of mohair yarns, they can get a little pricey. And so I'm kind of trying to decide whether I want to do a very economical version, which would probably feature these, maybe even these two exact yarns, sort of the budget yarns from Knit Picks, this lace weight and this aloft, just to sort of showcase that you can get, certainly indie dyed yarn is absolutely worth the cost, the artistry that goes into creating these colorways, and it's absolutely not overpriced or any of that, but not everybody can afford it, or not everybody can afford it all the time for every project. So I'm either going to do that, or I want to maybe do like a combination and combine sort of a budget yarn with an indie dyed yarn to sort of showcase how you can sometimes combine the two to get maybe something that's a little more in your budget, but you're still getting that kind of touch of luxury as well. So I've really just been kind of thinking about that and trying to decide where I want to go with it. It's really just some vague plans at this point. I have been, looking for, yarn options and kind of pricing things out, but I have made no decisions yet whatsoever. But it's there and it's in the back of my mind, and maybe you'll be seeing that later this year. I guess we'll see. But no major progress on designs. Some designs are coming, but slowly, kind of more organically at this point. No, I'm not really kind of worried about deadlines and seasons and have to do this, because it's really more of a pastime now, so I don't have to be quite so bogged down in constant pattern releases and all of that fun stuff. So that's what I have for Adelante in this episode. A little sewing segment in this episode. I have been doing some sewing. I will, as usual, put some photos in here of what I most recently finished. These are the Burnside bib. This is a pattern from Sew House 7. And this was my first intermediate sewing project. So it involves a zipper and just kind of a lot of moving parts. So you start out by attaching what's called the bib of the overalls to a waistband, which gets attached to the front of the pants, and then add the back of the pants, and then the inseam, which is tricky, and then the zippers and the side seams, and then the bib is lined, so it's double layered. So then you do that part, and there's the straps. There are belt loops, which were easy but tedious. But it all came together in the end. I did have a little bit of trouble finagling, not actually the part where I had to put the zipper in originally. The only trouble with that is I had to wait to get an invisible zipper foot in the mail from my sewing machine. But that part in and of itself was relatively simple. But then, as I said, the bib is double layered, and so getting everything all attached, but the zipper also still exposed so that it would zip all the way, that was a little trial and error in there. It took a couple of tries, but I got it. In the end, they are, they fit in terms of they're the right size, but this is the second pair of kind of pants-ish. I did a pair of pants and then these overalls that I've done, and it seems pretty clear to me that the rise on pants, so that's the distance from the crotch to the top of the waist, is longer in most, well, at least in the couple of patterns I tried, than mine is. So that is an adjustment I'm probably going to have to start making so that my pants don't droop down. And you can kind of see in the first photo, I have a lot of room in the crotch. The crotch of the pants hangs a little bit too low. And that is also true of the first pair of pants that I made. This is not really news to me. I think it is why I know very few people did, but I really liked the low-rise jeans trend from the late 90s and early 2000s, because for me, they fit pretty much perfectly. They weren't super low on me. They were low enough just to be comfortable. And so if that trend comes back, I'm not going to oppose it. So I think this is an adjustment I'm going to have to make to some patterns, and I don't really know how, so it's something I'm going to look into. I do have a pair of culottes and a pair of shorts that I'm hoping to do for warmer weather. So maybe I'll give it a shot with the shorts to start with, and we'll see how it goes. I'm hoping it's not too tricky, but at the same time, I'm assuming it is going to be a little tricky, because that's sort of the area of pants where pockets would be. So maybe the length of my pockets is going to have to be adjusted, and zippers and things. But I'm going to look into it. So, but I'm really happy with the overalls. They're really comfortable. I made them in a linen, and I actually, because I wasn't careful enough laying out the pattern pieces and cutting them out, I did not have quite enough length of fabric left for the straps. So I ended up using a very, very similarly colored linen rayon blend that's left over from my metamorphic dress to do the straps. I had lots of like little pieces of fabric left. I just did not have enough of that because it's a very long length, because the straps are designed to crisscross in the back, and then you can, you know, crisscross them through the belt loops, tie in the back, you can tie in the front, off to the side. They're supposed to be very long because there are lots of different ways you can style them. So it all worked out in the end. The next project I'm going to work on is my Easter dress. And it's going to be the first time that I use rayon. I don't know how it's going to go. The fabric feels very light and delicate. It's very light, it's very drapey, it's very thin, it's slippery. It was a challenge cutting out the pieces. You can see this is a little jagged. So I first started by trying to cut out the pieces, and that it was very jagged like this. And so I decided to switch to a rotary cutter, but I just have a very small mat to cut on, and I kept having to kind of shift it around. And the pieces that I cut with the rotary cutter do look neater. But I think, you know, hopefully have some money maybe in the near future to invest in a larger cutting mat, because it was just a pain in the butt trying to shift the mat so I could use the rotary cutter without shifting the fabric, which is very slippery. So we'll see. So I have this scrap. I got kind of like extra sharp Microtech needles for the machine that are supposed to be better for working with, you know, very kind of these kind of thin, delicate fabrics. I've read, you know, or watched a couple videos about working with rayon, so I think I'm ready. And it is a very, very easy dress pattern. There's it's kind of a boxy shape. The pattern is called Kimmy by Seamwork, and I'll add a photo in here. So you can just see this is just a very drapey, not a whole lot of structure to this. The biggest thing is probably going to be the waistband, which was probably a good project to start with a kind of delicate fabric. I really like this fabric. I originally bought it for the fall, but I wasn't paying attention when I ordered it. And it is, again, rayon. It's very thin and not really a fall fabric. But it's this really pretty floral, and it has sort of like this script inside of it. It's really cute. So that is going to be for my Easter dress, or what I'm assuming is going to be my Easter dress. We'll see when it gets done if it looks appropriate for Easter. That's going to be my next project. And then I did do some fabric shopping recently, so I'll give you a little peek at that. I bought, this is 4 yards of, it's called, is it rayon challis or rayon, I don't remember, viscose? It's something thin and delicate and light like that, or crepe, maybe, I don't know. It's something very light and drapey for a planned sort of maxi dress with a v-neck and kind of a slit in the leg, very light and airy and summery. Love this. Then I got this for a top. Get closer, you can see it's got this eyelet design. The design is a little bigger than I was kind of hoping. I was hoping it was a little bit more delicate, but what I didn't know when I ordered it is that it has this scalloped edge. So when I cut it, I can include that as part of what I'm cutting. And I think it'll be really cute. So I have a top picked out for this, and this is a nice light cotton for summer. And then the other thing I got is this, and this is what I got for my culottes. It's kind of denim eyelet, and it looks like polka dots, but when you get up close, I don't know if you can see, there are actually holes in there. So these are, you can see my hand going by them. So it's not just printed dots on the pattern, it's actual holes in the fabric. So I got this to make some culottes. This one is, I haven't washed this one yet. I'm a little bit worried about it running, so I didn't wash it with the other two. I think this will be, it's a thin, I think it's a, is it chambray or cambray or however it's pronounced. It's kind of like a thin denim-ish fabric. I was originally thinking about a drapier fabric for culottes, so they'd be even more like secret pants. Because if you get really drapey sort of fabric for your culottes, it falls together in a way that it kind of hides that they're actually pants. I don't know how that one's going to work out, but I still think it's going to be cute. So I am annoyed with myself because while I was shopping for this, I came across this really cute seersucker fabric with little flamingos on it. And if you are familiar with Baltimore, you'll know all about the lawn flamingos. And I hemmed and hawed. I was like, what do I need it for? I don't really need it. I don't know if it's my style, but it's so cute. And I ultimately did not order it. And then a few days later, I was like, you know what? I really want that. And now it's out of stock. So hopefully it will come back into stock somewhere. I just ordered all of this from fabric.com. And I don't know if I've used, I think I've ordered some fabric from them before, but I'm not sure if I've actually used it yet. So I can't really speak to the quality, but the price was certainly right, and the shipping was fast. So we shall see maybe if they get that flamingo fabric. There's another fabric from them that I want for a skirt that was also out of stock. So I'm hoping, I signed up, like email me when it's in stock, and I'm hoping maybe they'll both come back in stock around the same time, and then I can get both of them. We'll see about that. So I have plenty of sewing plans for the spring and summer, and we'll be talking about that more in future episodes. So I hope you guys are all doing well. I feel like I haven't really done a Chatterbox segment in a bit. A lot because, you know, sort of the late winter time, we're not going out and doing a whole lot, and we're mostly just staying at home, staying warm, and trying to make it through those winter days. But things are finally warming up, and life is getting a little more lively. For example, today I went to the dentist. In addition to that, we are doing some fun activities too. So last weekend, my mom, before she passed away about 5 years ago, but when I was growing up, I think starting maybe when I was around 9 or 10, she started, or maybe it wasn't until her mom passed. Anyway, she has a family recipe for sour beef. And she started doing it's a long process. You have to get the beef and marinate it for like a week, and so it's a big ordeal. And so she started twice a year, once in the spring and once in the fall, having a sour beef dinner. And since she passed, my sister and dad and I have been doing it once a year. And it is mostly my sister, because I don't eat beef, nor do I cook it. And we have not done it, obviously, since COVID. We were originally hoping to do it in the fall, but people just didn't quite feel comfortable enough. So we finally, last weekend, got to do the sour beef. We invited like everyone we've ever met. It was originally 30 some people that were supposed to be coming for dinner, but ultimately a few people couldn't make it. But it was the first time I've really seen, you know, my dad's brothers and sisters, and my dad is one of 6 kids, and my mom's only one of her brothers could make it. First time I've seen any of them since COVID started in the fall. When we couldn't do it, we did like sour beef on the go. So we cooked the sour beef and we made deliveries and we delivered it. And so I did get to see my mom's brother then, because I dropped his food off to him, and I got to see my aunt. I dropped her food off. And then we did like a Zoom so that we could all have sour beef together. But I've really gotten to see my family, you know, since the pre-plague days. So that was very nice. We had a lovely time. I cannot speak to the quality of the sour beef because I don't eat it. The dumplings were fine. But, you know, dumplings with no gravy, it's not great. They're just like balls of potato. Every year I say, you know, I bet I could make kind of a vegetarian version of the gravy. If I, you know, don't put the beef stock in and I put a mushroom, kind of like a mushroom stock, has that kind of meaty taste, and kind of the other ingredients, vinegar and onions and ginger snaps. I bet I can make a passable vegetarian version, but I never remember to do it. So, but we did get to see all this family, and it was wonderful, and everyone there was vaccinated, so we didn't have to worry too much about COVID, and it was just a really nice time to be able to finally see my family, and who knows when that will happen again. Because my dad is one of 6 kids, so his side of the family is quite big, although not too many of my cousins were able to make it. So that was, you know, a social activity, and hopefully we'll have some more of those as the weather gets warmer. We had some warm weather here for a while, but it got cold again this past weekend. Like there was not a lot, but some snowflakes falling, and the wind chill was in the 20s, and I'm not amused. I am ready for warm weather. I got my seedlings planted for my garden. I got my grow lights up, and this coming weekend I think I'm going to plant some of the dye plants that I want to try growing. I've tried this in the past, didn't have much success, but I'm going to give it another shot. And so this coming weekend I think I'm going to plant the seedlings for those. So for my garden I've got zucchini, some winter squash, tomatoes, and hot peppers. And I'll do like lettuces and things in pots, but that won't be until the weather is warm enough to just directly sow them outside. It's nice to see my happy little plants getting started, and with no cicadas this summer, I should be able to actually spend time outdoors and in my garden and get some, I hope, fresh vegetables. And I noticed in one of the pots, I was just kind of going through all my outdoor planters to see what, you know, is kind of broken, needs to be replaced, the dog has stomped on. And something was growing in one of them that didn't look like a weed. And it turns out it's the garlic chives that I planted it must have been spring or early summer, that never did anything, overwintered, and then they finally sprouted. So got some garlic chives growing. If they didn't get killed off this weekend in the frost. And the dog, who is poorly trained, and I don't see that changing anytime in the near future, tore apart my raspberry bush. So I had a raspberry bush in a big pot, and it would give me a handful of raspberries, like nothing that you could even do anything with unless you just wanted to go outside and pick a raspberry and eat it. So it's not like it was super productive or anything, but she's just like, I don't know, thought it was a toy and just chewed all of the... So I don't think that's going to do anything this year. Not that it really was to begin with, but the dog is a menace. Fortunately, my main garden is enclosed in a deer-proof gate. But my herbs and my lettuces and greens, I do pots out on the patio, and I have trouble keeping the dog out of them and the squirrels. But it's still nice to see gardens starting and thinking about all of the, hopefully, delicious herbs and vegetables we will have to look forward to. And I guess that is about all that has been going on around here. Thank you all so much for joining me for episode 56 of the Hilo Stitch podcast. Links to everything that I have talked about can be found in the show notes at mediaperuana.com/Hilo and Stitch, if I remember to do them. If you don't see them, feel free to leave a comment below this video and tell me, Kristen, you didn't do the show notes. Support for this podcast comes from my patrons, who I am so thankful for. So if you are interested in getting some perks and freebies and behind the scenes goodies while supporting the podcast and the Media Peruana Knits YouTube channel, you can find more information about that at patreon.com/mediaperuana. Here on YouTube, if you can like, subscribe, share, leave a comment, all of those good things help expand the reach of the channel. Speaking of which, I have a new non-podcast video for you, which is basically 20 minutes of my thoughts on, is wool cruel? Spoiler alert, I don't think so. If you are looking for me on social media, you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as Media Peruana, and I will see you next time.